so I couldn't do anything. I could hardly walk, to be quite honest with you. I just hadn't got any energy and I lost my core.
Hello everybody and welcome to our WALX webinar. This is not a medical session, it's not an advisory session, it's just us at WALX trying to engage with people around certain topics which we do on a regular basis. And today's subject, as you all know, is around breast cancer recovery. And I'm delighted that we've got some people that want to help with sharing their stories today. In particular, one lady that many of you may have seen on Facebook, very important to us here at WALX, and that is Sam Armstrong. And the focus of today is Sam really wants to share her story of recovery from her diagnosis, which is quite recent. It was in May this year. And the reason she wants to do that is she wants to inspire others and hopefully give people the tools they might need to look at how exercise and pole walking in particular have helped her. But she also wants to humanize and maybe make people feel that there is a community where they can be part of it, feel less isolated, have some answers to some questions around exercise and pole walking in particular, what might work, what won't work, those kind of things. And also just to create, as we've said before, a sense of community amongst us here at WALX. We've got professionals with us, we've got people that are going through similar journeys or have gone through similar journeys, and if we can and we have enough time, we have also Caro, who wants to say something, a very recent person that's come to WALX and wants to share what's happened to her over the last 2 months. And then we have Sharon, who's her journey started quite a long time ago, and she wants to update us, if possible, if we have enough time, on that. So with no further ado, Sam, I'm just going to open up to you now and obviously give everyone a wave so they can see. Let's just check on the housekeeping. Obviously you are all muted, but if you do want to share anything in the chat, you can do that. And if you've got a question, if you could start that with question, it will really help Sam and myself. If you've got a story you want to share either now, later, or at in the future with us, or be part of our next webinar, which is on 26th of November at 2 o'clock, then please put share story, and otherwise just chat away, and I have people having a look at that chat who will do it. So that's how you can communicate with us. So welcome, Sam, and if you want to put speaker view, then you're not looking at all the other faces, you're just looking at who's speaking, and that will be lovely. Tell us, Sam, tell us about your journey and how it affected you and your family when you heard that diagnosis back in May.
Hi, thank you, Jill, for the introduction. Can you all see me okay? Yeah, good. And welcome, everyone. I can see quite a few names here, so that's great to see you all. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. And yeah, I just want to welcome you to this webinar. We decided to do this. Well, I think it was it my idea or your idea, Jill? I can't remember, but
I think it was joint. It was joint because you just everybody was in, all of those that know you were inspired by what you did, and we wondered if there were other people out there that could benefit from what those that know you were seeing you do.
Yes, and those that know me also know that I'm quite a determined character, and I try not to let adversities get me down too much, although it's quite challenging at times. So I'm just going to run you back to end of April. I'm just going to go back to when I discovered that I got a lump, which I think it is very important for you to know that and to realize how I found it, because that message it's quite strong, and it's just a reminder for you to do your monthly checks and perhaps how to do them, because I didn't check regularly. I was very aware of it, but I suppose naively one thinks, oh, that's not going to happen to me. We always think that's not going to happen to me, and then suddenly it has happened to you. So it was a real shock, I can tell you. And I discovered it. I was actually asleep in bed. Oh, I wasn't asleep anywhere else, but I was in bed. It was a Friday night, and I remember I must have been hugging myself in this sort of position, and I woke up, and I felt a lump in my left breast. And because I was semi-conscious, I didn't really think, well, I just thought, oh, was that a lump? And I went back to sleep. The following morning, I was leading a walk up in the Peak District, and it was quite a nice day. And I was excited about the walk. It was a beautiful area. So I had quite a lot on my mind for the walk. And so I had a shower. And then when I was having the shower, I remembered, it's like a bad dream. Okay. It was a bad dream. And I remembered that I'd felt this lump. So, you know, when you have a nightmare, it was like that. And so I got out of the shower, I went straight to the mirror, and sure enough, I could see it quite clearly, and I could feel it. But the telltale sign for me, which made me really panic, was that there was a crease. Now, this isn't always the case in everybody's diagnosis, and some you can't see lumps, but there was a crease. So imagine you have a sponge, and you've creased that sponge, and there's a little line. That's as best as how I can describe it. So that when when I was standing and the breast was in its natural position, that's what I saw, and those alarm bells were going crazy. Because I'm quite a laid back person. I'm quite relaxed, and I don't overly stress or overly panic about things. And I'm more of a person that will say, oh, it'll be all right, everything will be fine, but not this time. And so I went off on the walk knowing that I'd got this lump, but the walk was a great distraction. It wasn't a beautiful place. There's quite a few turned out, you know, all the chat and the banter that you have on these walks. So that was a brilliant distraction. But I couldn't tell anybody. My husband he was traveling back from the States at the time. He got back late that night. He slumped on the sofa with jet lag. And I said to him, I found a lump. And I can see him now, the expression on his face. And he said, do we need to be worried about this? And I went, yes. I won't exactly tell you the words that I said, not online, or it's been recorded, but I went, yes, we need to be worried about this. So that was the discovery of it. And I couldn't actually phone the GP until the Tuesday morning. This may sound a bit silly, but I knew that I was working at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, and you know, these days you have to phone the GP at 8 o'clock. And I couldn't think of a reason to tell the others why I couldn't be there at 8 o'clock to make that phone call. So I left it till Tuesday. So I was still agonizing on Monday. And then the GP the practice was outstanding. And when you need to see a GP, by God, you get in to see a GP. So I got in that morning, and the rest by the end of the week, I knew. In fact, when I got into a consultant really quickly, I had a routine mammogram on the Wednesday, which is a little ironic. I had this routine mammogram. The consultant came to see me. I had an ultrasound and a biopsy all on the same day, as well as the mammogram. So I was a wee bit sore that day, and pretty emotional. So, but he told me there and then, he said, even though that the test results hadn't come through, he said, I am worried. I think this is cancer. And there's some words that stay with you forever, and that is something that will always be there. So that was my discovery. And if I can get across to any of you that are listening, please check, but check. Not always when you're standing up, lying down at a 30-degree angle, and that's how I found mine. And now now I've done all the research, that's one of the really good ways to check yourself.
Oh, that's really handy. And obviously I recall that you phoned me that day and I said, "Hey Sam, how are you?" And you went, "Not good." And I said, "Oh, that's not like you." And you said, quite out of the blue, to the point I nearly fell over, you said, "No, I've just been diagnosed with breast cancer."
Yes.
And that was your approach. You never went into a "I won't say anything" mode, did you?
No, I needed obviously to tell the family first before I could tell anybody else, but I think I've always been like that, and those of you that do know me also know that my eldest does have a terrible disability, and I think the way I dealt with that was talking about it as well. So for me, sharing that information helped enormously, and that's why I did put quite a bit out on social media, because I wanted to keep those particularly my walking members, I wanted to keep those updated as well and say what I was doing. I would do a weekly video blog for them just to say hi and this is the progress made, and I think they really appreciated that. So I have always been open about it because it's helped me, and I hope that by just sharing that journey, it helped other people as well.
And what do you feel has really helped with your recovery from the surgery? Because we did all, you did share everything. We saw you, lots of us that follow you, we saw you actually coming to after the operation almost, and then we saw you come home, and we all watched you taking your first steps into exercise. So do you want to share your relationship with exercise and pole walking, that and how that has helped your recovery?
Yeah, so my mindset was, I'm not going to let this beat me. I obviously have a good level of fitness previous to this happening, but even if you haven't got a good level of fitness, this what I did is something that most people would be able to do. And I think it was prioritizing my recovery and my physical activity by taking it gently. So even to the degree of goal setting for myself, and like what I wanted to achieve in week 1 and then week 2. So I had a 3-month plan, didn't particularly write it down. I did start writing some of it, but then that didn't continue.
Life got in the way.
Yeah. So
is it worth us sharing? Obviously, some people may not realize that the outcome of your diagnosis and everything was mastectomy of and you had your left breast removed. So
thank you. Yes.
Because obviously it's not just recovery from everything else, it's the recovery from a major operation.
Yes. So I would advise, I was going to say advised, that my consultant suggested that a mastectomy was the way forward for me. And something I've not mentioned so far, because the sense of humor, I had to have a sense of humor with this, because by the time you've taken your top off that many times and your breasts are called small and droopy, so then they got the nickname of Pinky and Perky. And he said because of that reason, by the time he'd removed the tissue where the cancer was, there wouldn't be much left of the breast. So I had a choice of a full reconstruction or to go flat. And it was a very personal decision to decide to have a reconstruction, but he very much advised that the mastectomy was the way forward. So that is major surgery. And obviously there's a lot of scar tissue there. And also you have lymph nodes out, because they need to detect if there's any, if the cancer spread into the lymph nodes. So there's quite a lot of, that's under the armpit. In fact, that area was more tight and tender than some of the scar tissue under the breast. So when you do start to recover, there's a lot of tightness and it's pretty sore. and you lose your range of movement in your arm. So there's quite a bit of work and physio initially to get that arm and the shoulder moving again, because if you don't, then what will happen, that will cease to work. You'll lose the range of movement, your scar tissue will start to heal. I was also massaging the scar tissue when I could. So if you don't do those things, there will be a risk of not having that movement back. And that's where the poles were just invaluable. Alongside the physio that I was doing 2 or 3 times a day. I progressed quite quickly with that. In fact, the sheet that the physiotherapist gave me, I looked at it, I thought, well, I'm supposed to do those for 4 weeks, right? Well, after the first 7 days, I thought, well, I can do all those, I need to progress. And I did ring them. I said, look, can I progress with these? And they were quite adamant that I shouldn't progress. But I think for me, it was listening to my body, what my body could do, and not a generic set of physio exercises that's just handed out to everybody, because we're all individuals and we progress at different rates. So I then set aside of doing my own physio, but it was only about just over a week after I had the dressings removed. And some of you have seen the video, that was just a video blog that I did whilst out walking, that I had a word with the surgeon, and because he was a huge advocate of walking. And I said, okay, that's great. Well, that's easy for me. I love walking. So, but I want to use poles. And then he looked at me a bit strange, and there was the nurse in the room as well. And he said, well, what do you mean you use poles for walking? So then I was in the room showing him how to do it. And the nurse got involved, and she was brilliant. She'd heard of it. And he said, oh yeah, okay, I think that's fine. But what he didn't want me to do was lots of weightlifting and overhead presses, etc., because apparently the implant can move within those first 3 months. So what he did say was I could do it. What I didn't tell him was how much I could do. But again, it's all relevant to each person. So that's within a week I started using the poles. And again, it's all about that setting small achievable goals. So I would walk locally, I'd start to use the poles, and then reduce the time that I would walk with them, and then gradually increase that time, and then start to add a bit more resistance with them.
So what sort of, when you say you went out within a week, what would that be? A short walk around the garden, 100-meter around the park?
Well, my very first one, because we live in a small village, my very first walk, because I had a drain in for 7 days, I just walked down to the village and back, which is about 10 minutes. And oh yeah, I've just had a flashback. My daughter came down with me, and she's in a wheelchair. And I said to her, you just go off down there, take the dog down that little lane, which is a gravel track, and let the dog have a run around in the field. So she did that. And I was chatting to somebody that lives in the village, and she said, oh, I can't believe you're out. So it's like, well, I've only walked down the lane and it's 5 minutes. So I was out for about half an hour in the end, but most of it was chatting. Anyway, my daughter went down the lane, and I thought, oh, I better go and find her. And she came back. And then because her wheelchair's really heavy, it got stuck in the gravel. And it's like, oh, right, okay, what do I do now? Because I couldn't push or pull. Now, normally I just like give it a good yank. I had to go to one of the nearby houses and knock on their door, say, can you help me, please? I've got a wheelchair stuck. So that was my first walk. But then gradually, I would be out for about half an hour for a gentle walk, but I'd say if you're not used to that, then just start off with 10 or 15 minutes. Then it was half an hour. This is without poles. And then when I use the poles, I reduce the time of walking because I've got the resistance to about 20 minutes. And I realized that that was okay. So before long, I would join one of the local walks, which was for an hour, and it was fine. It was just fine. But the action of using the poles was a really powerful tool.
And why do you think that was?
Why? Well, because obviously the engagement of the upper body, but the arm swing, and you're not applying a weight like you'd be lifting. If you were lifting weights, it is quite heavy, but because you've got that resistance with the pole and your upper body's taking the load as well, and just the forward movement of the arm was so good for the scar tissue. And each week that went by, I could literally feel my arm swing improving and the tension releasing, because at the top here, my chest, where and all around the lymph nodes, it was very, very tight. So that I just felt like that scar tissue was just healing so naturally without forcing it.
Okay, and did you get any? I know that some of the clinics we've worked in, and that Nordic walking, pole walking has been cited in research as really good for the swelling and lymphedema, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Did you experience any of that or not?
No, I didn't. And I don't know if that's because I was doing my exercise and I was, you know, allowing the body to move how it should do, and the exercise obviously increases the blood flow. So I don't know if it was because of what I was doing, but I'd like to think it was. I was just wondering, is Caro in?
Seen her. Let me have a little look, and while I do that, how long did it take you to get out? I think one of the most inspirational photos, because obviously you are in the Peak District, you are a mountain guide, and mind and body comes into this a lot as far as we're concerned. And you know, the whole concept of walks is about treating us as a whole. One of the pictures that I just thought Sam's back is when I saw you on a mountain. How soon was it when you got out onto that mountain?
I can tell you now, but what I had to be really careful about was that I had a lot of support. Our WALX members were amazing, but there's also many of them wanted to nurture me and almost, you know, protect me by saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do too much. And this comes back to listening to your body, your own body, knowing what you can do. And I did rest, and I did everything that was prescribed to me, but I also knew that I could do that bit more because I was listening to my body. So that photograph was taken 4 weeks post-surgery, and I went up Helvellyn, and I can tell you now, because I could not tell anybody that I was doing that. A few knew, but we were delivering a trip in the Lake District, and I went up 4 days, 3 or 4 days early to see what I was able to do. And I went out and I thought, okay, this is all right, I can do this. And so, yeah, I went up Helvellyn 4 weeks post-surgery. So I'm not saying go rushing out and doing that if you ever had breast cancer and you had a mastectomy. It's not for everybody, but I knew that I could do it. And I got to the top. It's like, hey, that was amazing. That was wonderful.
So your message would be, again, not just listen to your body, but you know, who and what were you doing before this?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then look at how you can come back to that. But obviously we get people that come to us, we take a lot of calls in the office, and it's, I've just been diagnosed and I've heard that poles are good for it, what do you advise? We are now trying to invite those people to connect with you as soon as possible, because we then can find out, well, what are you doing now? And let's see how we can help you. If there is a WALX group near you, then Sam can connect with that instructor as well, and they can ask her for any advice whatsoever. But also, you know, it is about, where are you now?
Yeah.
What do you feel if somebody never exercised and they're going through what you went through? And in a minute we'll talk about the other side of this, because obviously drug related and chemo,
yeah,
and those sort of treatments which you didn't have. But if someone's been diagnosed and weren't fit, this isn't a case of it only worked for you because you were fit and you used poles, is it?
absolutely. No, and I would imagine that there are a lot of people that are faced with this that haven't really participated in exercise. But I think the beauty of doing this is that it is such a safe form of exercise to do, and particularly if you do join a group, if there is one near to the the people, then that's even better, because you've got that support. And we all know that when you're going through something of traumatic nature, if you have more support around you, you're more likely to come through it better, for your own mental health as well. So this is something that can be picked up without putting too much stress on the body. And now I have been through it, I do know that it is a great form. I always knew, I mean, I've been doing this as long as I can remember now, 16, 17 years maybe, but and the reasons why I first started was because of a situation, an adverse situation with my daughter, so it helped me come through that. So I do think it's just such a safe exercise to do, following on from that diagnosis. And if Caro is in, I'm not sure if she is, I'd love her to chat.
She's not actually. What I do, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but Sharon, if I could ask you to unmute, and then if we can try and locate Caro, but if not, Sam, if you could tell Caro's story, and if you can, the testimonial that came through, that would be really good. Sharon, are you happy to share? Because yours is a different story regarding the poles, because yours is a much later, where you've switched poles because of, well, you tell your story, because I know that there's a condition following a mastectomy, and you're how many years on now, Sharon?
12 years on, yeah. So yeah. About a couple of years ago, I noticed I was getting more and more discomfort in my shoulder and across my chest. So I sort of had a bit of physio, and just sort of disregarded it really, but then it got worse. So I saw my GP and they sent me to my breast cancer clinic. So I went up just to rule out any reoccurrence, because I lost a sister through breast cancer, so I'm one of 3 sisters. And more recently this year, the younger one got diagnosed with breast cancer. So we've got quite a big link there. We've been tested, BRCA tested, and OR test came back okay, so we don't carry that gene. So basically they sent me back to the breast care clinic, just to rule out any possibility of a reoccurrence. And they did checks and CT scan. And basically what they have come up with, or what they've known about for some years, is that some people get this pain after surgery, and it's called post-mastectomy pain syndrome. And that's basically what I've been diagnosed with.
Okay. And so you had to stop using your poles at one stage, which were, as an instructor, wasn't ideal for you.
Yeah, when it was really bad, I stopped using them, but it had a more knock-on effect than that. That there were lots of things around home, things like gardening, even sort of things like vacuuming. It stopped me from doing a lot of things. But
What a bonus.
Yeah, well, you could say, oh, that's not such a bad thing. So you don't want to be vacuuming all the time or gardening all the time. But the worst thing for me was actually not being able to pole, use my Nordic walking poles. And it was at the time, roughly about the time, where the Total Body Walks poles were really sort of taking off. And I started using them. And I noticed a big difference. So along with sort of a bit of physio and other sort of things that I didn't want to take. I mean, basically, the NHS, they offer you things like steroid injections, lidocaine patches, gabapentin, antidepressants. And I didn't want all of those. Didn't want to go near those. And I just wanted to keep going with my walking. So basically, I turned to the total body walks poles, and I found the difference really, really significant. So I had reduced discomfort along my shoulder, because also with post-mastectomy pain syndrome, you get this tingling down your arm as well. So and I don't get that because the poles, you just don't over grip using the handles. So it was a lot of things that I was beginning to notice the difference in between the two types of poles. So I started using the cork handle total body walks poles, and it was much better.
And you just did how many miles last weekend?
Oh yeah, 16.
And have you recovered? You look so fresh when you finished.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, it was good. And I just loved to be able to, I mean, that was probably the biggest challenge I've done over the last few years. So that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did really well, and you raised lots of money as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Caro is actually here. Caro, do you want to unmute yourself? Because Sam tells us you've had quite a long journey, sort of battling a diagnosis, you know, a year or so ago, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she's here. Hello, Caro.
Hello.
So
I'm here.
when were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed on the 31st of August last year, 2023.
Okay.
So, I mean, 3 weeks before, I got a call back on a mammogram, and it was a statutory one, everybody. So, go and get your statutory mammograms done, everybody. But I had 3 weeks in between because we went on holiday, but they said it's fine, just go, have a nice time, haha. So we went, and I actually, when I got back, I then got the diagnosis. So it's been a long journey because of the type of cancer that I had, and that was what has debilitated me kind of physically. They decided it was, for those of you who know, estrogen positive and HER2 positive, which means it's got a really massive growth hormone, you know, making it grow. And so they elected to give me chemotherapy first. So I had 6 months of chemo, which was pretty much of a challenge. And although the first 3 weren't too bad, my hair just fell out. Well, I say they weren't bad, they were, but the second 3 were much worse. And the second 3, a little bit like the previous talker, actually, that was what laid me waste. So I couldn't do anything. I could hardly walk, to be quite honest with you. I just hadn't got any energy, and I lost my core, all, you know, my muscles in my legs, they all kind of got knotted. My husband spent every evening massaging them, and my feet, you know, and you get neuropathy as well with the chemo. I had a break in chemo from kind of the end of January through to the end of Feb, when I was kind of getting a bit better. I could walk a bit then. Then I had the op. So that then laid me waste for a bit. Although I was lucky, I only had a lumpectomy at that point. And it was pretty contained, thank goodness. And then I had 8 weeks where I managed to get some walking in. I did. And a little bit of exercise. You know, I felt I was making progress. And then I had radiotherapy, which then, again, I think everybody who's had it, it kind of lays you waste a bit, fatigue-wise, or it can do, and it did me. So by this time, it was May, and I started doing a little bit of walking again in June. And then in July, the end of June, sorry, I started with my post-chemo, which is to target any HER2 that might be still left in my system. Not as bad as the others at all, but it kind of, I have it every 3 weeks, and I've got 14 of them to do. So the first 2 laid me waste a bit, but they've reduced my dose now. So as soon as I had a little break, I was starting to walk again. And that is when Sam had shown Ken, and he was doing his qualification, my husband, about the poles. And he then trained me in them. And that was just amazing. I can't say any other word. I could not believe it. Now, I used to be a dancer in my earlier years, so I've got quite a lot of cell memory and things like my core, but it was squidge. I mean, totally squidge. And he showed me how to use the poles. And honestly, I only probably at that time was able to do, I don't know, about 3 or 4K at a time, probably max. This was back in June and into July. And I just gradually built on it. And by the time we went on holiday in August, I got quite a bit of core back. And we did some climbing of mountains with him as well. They are fantastic for going up really steep hills. Honestly, just amazing. And when we came back, obviously we went to the Dorset Festival, as you know, and I did a 4-miler, then the next day a 5, and then an 8.25. And I was so chuffed with my progress. And it's all to do with the poles, because I stopped doing little exercises. I've started now doing, you know, squats and lunges and stuff, because I want to go skiing in February, and it looks like I'm going to be able to do that. I have to kind of lose 1 week in every 3, because when I've had the chemo, the first week I'm a bit low on energy. That's this week, bit low on energy. But the second and the third week, I'm out there with my poles. And I honestly could not believe I did maybe 4 or 5 walks. And then I went, oh, you know, touching my tum and going, oh my goodness. Also, I was getting bingo wings, and those have gone.
Oh, wow. Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I know you did also have a little boogie. I did see at the Dorset Festival.
I did.
I could see that you were at the edge of your your energy levels at that point, but you still gave it a go. And I think that's really important. And why Sam wanted you and Sharon to come in is that I think one of the key things, Sam, if I can bring you back in, thank you so much, Caro, for that. I think that's you know, to see someone who's had a bit of a year to come out and share that positive message is absolutely lovely. And we will watch your progress, and we will see you go skiing. But Sam, what's the main thing you want people to come away from this session with?
Hello again. Thank you, Caro, for that story. It's truly inspiring, and thank you, Sharon, for yours as well. Even though it was some time ago now, the polls have had a dramatic effect. It's like a miracle, isn't it? It's a miracle. But the take home for me, I think, is ladies and men can get breast cancer as well, but check your breasts. Keep up with the exercise. We do have virtual sessions. If you can't get outdoors, then we do have virtual sessions as well, which are brilliant. Some great instructors do those. So I also, if I can inspire somebody to go out there and pick up those poles, and like Caro did, and like Sharon has, if I can I say, I want to use the word influence, but I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be someone that inspires. And I've heard that word a lot, particularly since my diagnosis, and some of the cards, in fact, just behind me, because I can't bear to throw them away. If you can see these, this is the stash of cards that I got, and the flowers filled 3 rooms. And in each and every one of those cards is, you're an inspiration, you're this, you're that. So whilst sometimes I don't feel like that, but I want to inspire and motivate others to get out there, not feel alone, feel supported within the community, particularly with our community. And if you know anybody at all that is going through this, yeah, just say, look, I think this is a good idea, that you should take this up, because it will help not only with your physical being, but your mental well-being. So it is just literally get out there and to inspire, and keep on exercising, never stop exercising.
And walking, if if you're not ready for poles, go walking. It is so valuable for your mental, physical health, nature, all of those things. But also, if you've got a group near you, the sociality is important, isn't it, Sam? The camaraderie. You may not feel like sharing your experience. Some people do, some people don't. You may feel more comfortable sharing it with somebody like Sam than you do with your local group or instructor. Anything's fine, as long as you know that within WALX we have the local groups, we have participants, we have leaders, we have instructors that are all there for you. And Sam mentioned the online classes, so you can literally do anything from Pilates, yoga, home weights with Denise. You can join Martin Christie for some toning. We do smoothie workouts, which are something that's been really popular with some breast cancer recoverers, and Jilly does a session. I think Ashley does as well. These are all, if you are within a WALX group and you pay by direct debit, they come with your direct debit, so you can join us pretty much every day for a really highly qualified instructor to just take you through some of the things Sam was doing. What we would like to ask people is, if you are on this journey and you feel a weekly workout or a video every couple of weeks from Sam, so you can watch some of the things that she's doing, let us know. So please just pop that in the chat now. If you've got a story to share, if you've got a question for the ladies, and if you feel that yes, we're going to have another webinar, but if you feel that you would like to be part of some kind of chat group where you can ask questions or contribute in any way, we'd like to know, and my dog would certainly like to know, if that is something that that you would like to be part of as well. We really want to create some kind of support community with Caro, Sharon, Sam, and anybody else that wants to be part of it, because every day somebody is going through what these ladies went through on that day of diagnosis. And
apparently every 10 minutes a lady gets a diagnosis, or someone, not just females. Just one more thing on the support. When you have your own business in our community, we support others. It's what we do. But when it comes down to actually the problem is now mine, you also get a huge amount of support from your members, hence those cards behind me and the flowers and the gifts that I receive. So I've got an awful lot of warmth and feeling like it was my other family from our WALX members, which was a really powerful thing. So it works both ways.
Yeah, there's nothing like sociality, and not all of us want to share. And I think you were keen to you had a lovely phrase earlier that you wanted to influence but not be an influencer. And sometimes when you see someone sharing all and bearing all, it's easy to say, oh my goodness, I'd never do that. Why are they doing that? Is it attention seeking? And I know you well enough, Sam, to know that you were quite vulnerable, and that was not something you found easy. It wasn't a case of it was a commitment to helping others, and, as you say, inspiring, that drove you to do that. And I for one, and I'm sure everybody else here, would like to give you a big round of applause for that alone. So
thank you.
Just a round of applause. And are there any questions? Dennis, are there any questions coming in?
Joel, I think everybody's been listening attentively to the conversations that have happened this afternoon. The 45 minutes has blown by. Sam, Sharon, you just amazing, and Caro, so passionate and so wonderful. But yeah, there's no questions. I put in the chat the link for the November event, Jill, as you reminded everybody at the beginning. But no questions at all to share. I think it's just been fascinating listening all afternoon. I don't know what anybody else wants to add.
Well, somebody has said, so inspiring to hear your stories. Great to be able to offer and help solutions, etc. And so we've got some comments. So yeah, please just pop your comments for the ladies in there now, and we will say goodbye, and hopefully we'll see you again on the 26th. If you want to email us with any suggestions about how we can help you in person or how you can help us, if you come through to me, that's Jill with a G at walx.co.uk, and we will see you all again soon. And let's help as many people as we can collectively, because together we can achieve more. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you so much, Caro, for that passion, and Sharon as well for walking 16 miles and being an inspiration to others as well. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.